So welcome everybody for joining me in this webinar in enabling efficient and scalable team coaching using the Simply.Coach platform. My name is Ram Gopalan. We are a year ahead according to my flawed slide out there. It is November 2023. So definitely it should be November 2022 out there. I'm one of the co-founders of Simply.Coach. So thank you for joining in. As you go through this webinar, you'll find that there are two ways in which you could ask questions. You could simply post them in the chat window and I'd be able to read it and respond to your questions, or you can raise your hand and ask a question. And Nikhil, who's part of our product marketing team, will moderate those questions and send them across so that I could answer them for you. Feel free at any point in time to stop me, ask questions. It always gives us an opportunity to answer those for you. All right, okay. So I'm going to move forward there. A little bit about Simply.Coach, right? It's a digital platform to manage the end-to-end process for your coaching business. So if you're in the coaching business, it could be a single person practice, or it could be a practice with multiple coaches, multiple end organizations, and a vast number of coaches. Then Simply.Coach is the platform to manage that entire process. As the graphic on the left-hand side will tell you, we take care of the entire end-to-end process, right from onboarding and advancing the engagements, scheduling and engaging the participants there, tracking and nudging them, building behaviors, tracking them for progress, curating and sharing content, as well as running feedbacks and surveys to track their improvement and impact of your coaching journey. That's Simply.Coach. We have seen that people have used it for purely coaching engagements as well as leadership and manager development journeys out there. So in that context, we have seen that it is pretty versatile in terms of going beyond coaching as well into applications in the area of consulting, mentoring, counseling as well. We are hosted on Amazon Web Services, and we are one of the, I'd say, the only platform out there which has global compliances in terms of GDPR, SOC 2 compliances, and IPA as well. Probably the only platform which has all three of those compliances in place. We have now coaches in over 15 countries and clients as well. So over the last 2 years, we have served a variety of different countries and coaches there. Currently, we have a responsive web design approach. It works on seamlessly across your desktops, laptops, tablets, and smartphones, and that is both for you and your coaches in there. And it could be even your program managers, or it could be the coaches HR business sponsors out there. That's Simply.Coach for you, right? I'm going to go a little bit further here. That's about Simply.Coach. Now I have a question here. There are only a couple of you here, but I'd still ask, Stephen and Trevor, for you, the question out there is, what team coaching challenges can technology help solve for you? So if you could just put in a comment there in the chat box out there, I can pick that up. Yeah. So what team coaching challenges do you think technology can help solve for you? Yeah. I'm going to give it a minute out there. Not seeing anything from Stephen or Carolyn or Trevor out there. So yep, a totally integrated system, absolutely. Scheduling, yes, Trevor. Yeah. And that is what we want to solve in here, right? One of the things that I, as a coach, experienced myself is when I started working, and this was back in 2015-16, when I started working with groups, I found that integrating everything and bringing it all together for myself as a coach was very difficult, because there were way too many participants across in groups, and every participant expected me to know where they are, listen to them, keep and track their progress as well. And yes, Trevor, definitely encouraging the coaches is also a very, very important point of view. And that is all about being present as a coach and how do you make sure you're available for them itself, right? And what I've seen is that it's easy to do this if you're working with 1 or 2 people, but the moment you start scaling up your practice, it definitely gets challenging. If you were to scale up the practice and you're a full-blown coaching business where you've got multiple client organizations, you've got multiple coaches that you're working with, and you're trying to orchestrate all of this, then it definitely becomes a big challenge out there. Yeah. So I'm going to go further out there. So in this webinar, what I want to do is talk about how can you Coach the team as one entity while still retaining the focus on the individual. Often what happens is that we are looking at teams and there could be smaller sub teams in there within the organization. And then we start lumping them all together as one entity. But at the same time, we want to really go in deeper into what is happening with the individual itself. And that's one place where we think technology can solve that for you. The other thing is when we do this, we still maintain the trust, the transparency, and the clarity so that our coaches are able to work in a safe space. They are able to be vulnerable out there and work with their coachee and still in that very, very confidential manner. How do you encourage dialogue and reflection within the team, which is within the system and outside the system? What I mean by that is when you're conducting your team coaching sessions out there, how do you make sure that you're encouraging dialogue and reflection there? But how can the platform support this outside the coaching conversations, in between the coaching conversations itself? How can we enable peer learning as well? And finally, this bit about saying it could be follow-ups, it could be reminders, and reminders to reduce the admin time as well. So those are the bunch of things that we are going to talk about here today. Good. Now, I'll be switching between this PowerPoint presentation and the Simply.Coach platform and as I demo it for you. So once again, at any point in time, feel free to stop me and ask me questions. Yeah. So the first thing that I want to talk about here is that when you're creating an engagement out there are no limits to the number of participants that you can add into a coaching engagement, into a cohort, a group, or a coaching engagement in there. So it's not that we are going to restricting you saying that you should be able to do only 4 or 6. So if you think you can manage 8 people, 10 people, sure, it is up to you to take care of the number of participants in there. We are also providing you with the flexibility to add existing engagements. So suppose if you are working with an individual in a one-on-one engagement and you want to move them up into a cohort, which is already running, you can move somebody into an engagement, into a group from a one-on-one engagement. You also have the ability to remove a person from a cohort and continue as a one-on-one engagement. So it could be that you worked with them in a group and you continued that for 6 months and the cohort journey ended. And a couple of people who had to come and tell you that, hey, fantastic coach, can we continue this engagement on a one-on-one basis? So and you can just simply move the engagement details from the cohort into an individual level and continue to work with them seamlessly as well. And finally, as I said, it is not just that you only as a coach are working with them. You could also bring in other coaches in there, and you can pair up participants with multiple coaches while retaining the full confidentiality and security. Yeah? So I'll just talk about that. Now what I want to do is I want to go here, bring in my browser here. So I've got a bunch of tabs open here. Um, On the Simply.Coach interface, when you click on clients, you will find that there are one-on-one engagements out here, and you also have teams and groups. So the ability to create teams and group coaching engagements as well. When you say you want to start off a new cohort here, right? You simply have to select the client organization, and you would say which organization is this part of, give a name for your cohort, talk about all the sessions that you have planned in there, the start date to the end date in there. And then you can go add all the clients in there, people that you already have contacts. You can simply add them one by one into the engagement. And what you will do is you will assign a coach or a master coach in there. And this is as simple as creating that cohort in there. Once you have created that cohort in there, you will find that a cohort is created with the master coach in there, and you get to see a list of all the coaches, all the cohorts which you have within your organization in there. So when you do this, you will come in here and say, this is a high potential cohort in there, and you have onboarded participants in there. As I said, there are multiple participants in there. In this case, for instance, you've got participants who are assigned to all coaches, who is myself, because I'm logged in as the owner coach here as Mason. But however, nothing prevents me from saying that for this participant who is here, I can go ahead, edit them, and assign them to a different coach here. So if it is one of my associate coaches in there, I'll be able to assign them to that particular coach there. And you will find that as I come back to this cohort here and I look at all the participants, they would be able to have multiple or different coaches as per their choice itself. So once again, you will find that there are unlimited participants out there and you have the ability to uh, allocate different coaches for them apart from you being the one coach who's orchestrating all of it. So it's almost like an orchestrator or a master coach in there, as well as somebody who's individual coaches for each of the participants out there. That is just simply in terms of how you would create a cohort in there, add participants. So I'm going to pause there for a minute, see if there are any questions that come up for you, and then I can take that and I can then move to the next part of this feature set for teams and groups. Nothing yet. So let me go back here and going back to my presentation here. So as I said, no limitations on the number of participants that you can add. You do have the ability to put people into a cohort or remove them from a cohort. It gives you a lot of flexibility as well. And as I said, you can have multiple coaches paired with participants while still maintaining confidentiality. And I'll talk about the confidentiality part of it as we go along in terms of what information people would see and what information they wouldn't see as well. Yeah. Now, moving forward, right? Now, when it comes into coaching itself, we do have a nuance in terms of team and group coaching. And what that means is if you're working with a team and it could be a sales team in there, they could have a shared goal of being more proactive or being more customer centric, and they would have a shared goal which they are working as a team. And again, there could be no limitations in terms of the number of shared goals which they have. And it is also possible that individuals within that team also are carrying individual goals itself. So you do have the opportunity to have shared and individual goals in there. Second thing is sessions. When you are doing an outbound scheduling, which means that you as a coach are scheduling sessions at a cohort level, you will be able to do that seamlessly. You set it up once and all participants will get the meeting request. And if you were to update it, the system will orchestrate that for you. And at the same time, if you were to look at it, when a participant wants to schedule a session, which we would call it as an inbound scheduling, the participant will be able to look at the calendar of their assigned coach and will then be able to find a slot that works for them to schedule a session. So for example, you might say, hey, I want to talk about design thinking and I want to schedule a session for that. And you would schedule an outbound session for design thinking. And then you would say, now participants will work on it during the month, and then they will schedule a one-on-one coaching session with their assigned coach in there, and that will be done by the participant as an action itself. So that's in terms of sessions. And I talked about actions in terms of what the participants will do. We will have actions which you can assign and track at a cohort level as well as an individual level. At a cohort level, it could be something like complete your individual development plan, which is an action assigned to everybody. And at an individual level, a coach can be saying something like set up a conversation with your supervisor, and that could be at an individual level managed by the coach. Similarly, as part of your team coaching engagement, you have the ability to share documents, resources. Again, it can be shared at a cohort level and at an individual level itself, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip. I'm going to go towards our demo here, and I want to talk about that. So I'm back here in the cohort. I talked about goals first. So if you were to look at goals here, you see this improved coordination for this high potential leaders cohort is a cohort goal, which means that everybody would see this as their part of a shared goal, which they are seeing. And there are a couple of people who are part of the cohort who, apart from this goal, can also have their individual goals in there. And as you can see there, right, Elria's goals are different from what Adrian has, apart from something which is shared as a cohort itself. Once again, if I wanted to add an individual goal here, I can simply go in here, add a goal for Adrian. And this is something which will be for a goal only for Adrian. And at the same time, if I wanted to add a group goal in there, I could come in here and say this goal here, I can go in and add it at a group level itself. Yeah? So that's in terms of the goals itself. And I'm going to go back to at a cohort level because we are working at the level of the individual participant here. So once again, I come back to goals here. And here, if I wanted to add a cohort goal rather than an individual goal, I would be able to do that. Now, since I am managing this cohort as a whole, I get to see everybody's goals and I'm getting to see edit all of that. However, if one of the coaches were to log in and they were assigned only to one participant, they will not see it at a cohort level, they will see it only at an individual level, which means that they'll be able to work only with that participant. For example, if Jerry were to log in and he were working with Adrian, then what Jerry would see is only Adrian's information and he would see this group goal, which is indicated that, which is as a shared goal, which is inherited from the cohort, and also all the individual goals. And then the coach Jerry or Adrian will be able to add a goal for themselves to work at an individual level. So you do get the opportunity to work at that individual level as well as a cohort level itself. That's the first thing from a goals point of view. The second thing is, as I mentioned, the ability to schedule sessions. So when we are working at a cohort level, and I'm back at that level, when we schedule sessions here, this will be at the level of a cohort. So as I mentioned, if I were to be scheduling a session this month on design thinking for all the participants, I would come and schedule a session here. And this will take them further and book a slot available on all the candidates itself. Similarly, if I were to go look at actions, and let's see that there are actions out there, okay, which is available in there. So you would find that there are actions which are available. Let me go and look at all the open actions here. If I say shared lessons learned with your direct reports, and this is part of the common goal in there, you would find that this is for a high potential leaders cohort here. And I'm able to track saying that who has completed it and who has not completed it. So in a certain sense, if I want the group to start working on actions together, I'll be able to do it. And the power of these actions is such that I should be able to go in there and I can tie it with the goal. I can tie it with a particular session that I'm scheduling for the cohort. And I can also select documents which are available from the repository. So I could craft a variety of different actions which is tied to a particular goal, tied to a particular session, or it could be given it as a reading material in there. So you have a lot of flexibility in using these actions very powerfully. And the beauty is today you might be doing this offline, you might be doing this over mail, it gets lost in the mail train. But here you have the opportunity to send it out, track whether they are done the action or not. Also have one single place where you can remind everybody as well. So today, if I were to go in there, simply send out a reminder using this reminder icon, a reminder would be sent to all participants to complete this action itself, right? So that's on goals, sessions, and actions. And finally, as I mentioned, there is a shared space available where you are able to have a conversation with the participants in terms of sharing resources with them. They are also able to come and share resources in the shared space. Both the coach and the participants are able to work in an offline, non-linear fashion outside the coaching sessions itself, right? So I've covered the basics in terms of goal setting, sessions, actions, and shared space, right? So Trevor has a question. So Trevor, no, people who have completed the actions, they are not pinged when you remind the cohort. So it is always goes to incomplete actions at the cohort level. So people who have not completed are the ones that get the reminder. Now, when you look at it, right, these are the basic building blocks in terms of just a team or a group coaching. There are small nuances here. For example, say if you are going to schedule a session here, the platform allows you to, once again, sync all your calendars, send the updates, put it as an online meeting in there. And if you need to reschedule, you can do that right away from the platform itself. So going to pause there, going to come back. This does get a bit, and coming back to the slideshow in there, right? Once again, goals, shared goals, individual goals. You're able to look at the shared goals at a cohort level. You're able to look at the individual goals at an individual level, right? You've got sessions, as I said, outbound scheduling at a cohort level and inbound scheduling where the participant schedules sessions with the assigned coach. You've got actions, cohort level and an individual level, document resources shared at a cohort level at an individual level as well. Yeah. I'm going to take a pause there. Any questions that I can help answer on these basic features in terms of how you would run a team or a group coaching engagement here, right? So Trevor, at an organizational level, and here within the platform, we define an organization as something which is an enterprise. So it could be an IBM or an HP or at that level. So there is never a sharing at an organizational level. There is always a sharing at a cohort level. So if you're working with, say, 30 participants in an organization, you could still use them as a cohort. And when you share it in there, it'll be sent to all participants. And there are a variety of ways in which you can use this, right? So for instance, let's assume that for an organization, you're working with 30 participants and you're working with them at an individual level. Okay. They are not a group, but you have constructed it as saying, I'm working with 30 participants, I'm working with them individually. Crazy, but you have somehow signed up to do this. Now, for all of these participants, I can take them and put them into a cohort. They don't have shared goals, they have individual goals. They don't have group sessions, so there is never a group session. But now that you are the coach, they can always come and schedule with you. But the beauty is that suppose if you want all of them to come and say, hey, I want you to set up session 1 with me, you assign an action at a cohort level, it'll be assigned to all of them individually. And then all of them will get the reminders to schedule one session with you. Similarly, if you were to give them a reading material, rather than go individually share it with them, because you have logically grouped them as a cohort or a group within Simply.Coach, you can share it at a cohort level and it'll send it out. So it simplifies your job of working with multiple participants in a single organization if you were to group them together in a cohort. So they need not be a cohort, but you can logically group them. If you logically group them and you come and put that into the shared space, that will be sent out to all of them. So for instance, if you say, hey, here is an article, you send it out, you share it and send it, it'll be sent out to all. Similarly, if you were to create an action, that action would be sent to everybody. And when one of these people logs in, and let's say it's Aldria who logs in there, Aldria would see those actions as herself. She will see those actions showing up there, and that will be something which is available for her, which she would complete and mark it as done out there. Trevor, longish answer, but did it work for you? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions that I can help answer? Okay. So I'm going back to my presentation there, PowerPoint slideshow. Now I want to talk about a couple of the advanced features. Now, at a cohort level, we want to build awareness and behaviors as well as an individual level. Now, for an individual coaching engagement within Simply.Coach, you could set up nudges, but you could do that at a cohort level also, right? So that is one of the things that I want to talk about, saying that when you set up nudges, what happens? How are we able to manage them as a group level to build awareness, create better behaviors, as well as at an individual level? So I'll talk about that. The second advanced feature is pretty interesting because it talks about saying, how can I use the digital tools feature, right? And there are two use cases that you can think of here. One is when the coach wants inputs from cohort participants, For example, you conducted a session on design thinking and you want feedback from the participants. The other one is that when coach wants inputs for the cohort participants, which means that you want to run a 360-degree feedback for all the participants and you want inputs for them, right? So from cohort participants is you are as the coach are the person who's benefiting it, whereas for cohort participants is when you're running it for them itself, right? So I'm going to talk about two of these features itself, and I'm going to switch back and I'm going to swing in. I apologize for this. I need to keep moving across these, all right? Coming back here. So we are here and let's go look at nudges here. As a cohort here, I can go and set up a nudge here, which could be a simple one saying, hey, there is an upcoming session here. And what you want to do is build awareness. You would create this nudge here saying, our coaching session as part of this is coming up. Please take time to review your goals. Look forward to speaking with you. And this nudge would go out 2 days prior to the session, all sessions. Once again, the timing of this nudge is configurable by you as a coach. The message is configurable as well. The beauty is that when you configure it, it is being sent to all the participants. Now, this is like a session-based nudge. Another one could be, hey, update your individual development plan. And you could have this as saying, hey, we want to review progress here. Come here and update your individual development plan here. And you want to do this on a monthly basis. Once again, recurring. But these are things which would normally you would start doing this manually. You would have to follow up. But here, what the system will allow you to do is take care of that and manage that for you. So these are nudges, once again, based on session. So you could do it before a session, or you could do it after a session. So that's one way to do it, or it could be based upon time itself. So it is right now, it is monthly. You can make it daily. You can make it weekly. You could make it bi-weekly. And those are nudges at a cohort level. While this is happening out there, and I'm going to switch tabs here, you can see that while there is a reminder for an upcoming session here and update individual development plans, which is coming in at a cohort level, for Adrian, you've also got nudges which have been set up at an individual level. For instance, being yourself is a consistent effort, and you've got this one going in there, and you've got this, which is very, very specific nudge, which is helping them build better behaviors, create awareness on being themselves. And now this is very, very sharply tied. And this is something which is being done by the coach who's working at that individual level. So at a group level, you are creating awareness and behavior, and that could be transactional, if you were to call it transactional, in terms of be on time, complete this, be ready for your session, do your reflections, complete the actions kind of nudges. And there are nudges which are at an individual level, which is very, very deeply tied with their individual goals which they are working on. And that is also, once again, helping them to build awareness, build better behaviors. That is in terms of nudges itself. The second part about the advanced features for a cohort is where I talked about digital tools. So when you look at digital tools at a cohort level, and I'm again in this high potential leaders cohort, and I'm looking at tools here. There is one which I talked about where I'm saying there is design thinking and a session feedback, where I'm taking feedback from the cohort participants. And then there is a 360 feedback where it is feedback for the participants. So let me illustrate that further. When I create a digital tool, for example, on design thinking, you will see that design thinking one, the participants for this survey are all the participants of this high potential leaders cohort. Only they are the participants. They are the ones who are coming and completing the form, and you will get feedback from them. You don't get feedback from their bosses. You don't get feedback from their subordinates. It is within this cohort you are getting the feedback there. As opposed to another kind of feedback, and this is something which all of us struggle with, where if I were to look at it and I say, hey, there is this particular 360 feedback cycle which I'm doing across all the participants, and I can see that he has 9 participants or stakeholders. Adrian has got 4. Chris, Danian has yet to onboard people there. Now I get a bird's eye view of saying that all of them are going through a single format of a 360-degree feedback. And I can come and orchestrate this here by reminding all of them, saying, hey, reminding the participants as well as their stakeholders to complete the 360, as well as I can remind them individually to come and complete it. Now, you can only imagine when you're trying to do a 360 feedback for 15 people in your cohort and you're trying to bring that all together and you're trying to manage it. What the platform allows you to do it, simply work at a level where you're saying participants themselves, for example, Adrian as a participant will onboard his or her stakeholders here, and he would take care of it because he has got access to the platform. And once they have brought in all their stakeholders, it's a matter of you setting up the 360 feedback tool, and then designing that tool. For instance, this way, this is how the 360 feedback tool, this one is a sample, has been, and then it's a matter of orchestrating it for all the participants, right? A lot of power in there, a lot of ability to orchestrate this very well without going crazy in terms of where is everybody, how do I remind them, how do I track progress, how do I bring back all these reports, how do I share reports with participants itself. So I'm going to take a breather out there. I've introduced two things out there. One is the ability to nudge for behaviors and awareness at a group level, at an individual level. And the other one is running surveys where your cohort participants or respondents, and surveys where you're orchestrating to collect feedback and inputs for them. So I'm going to pause there once again. Would love to take some thoughts and questions from people there. So I come back to my PowerPoint here. So those are the advanced features, and I spoke about it right now itself. We believe that it will allow you to get greater control. It will allow you greater visibility without getting caught into the administrative aspects of it. So we've covered the ability to create an engagement. We have covered coaching, team and group coaching, as well as we have covered the advanced features. So if I were to bring it back, we wanted to talk about how do we coach the team as one entity while focusing on the individual? How do you maintain trust, transparency, give them clarity at an individual level? We have talked about how can we encourage dialogue and reflection within the team itself, and how do we follow up and get reminders to reduce the administrative time out there. That's all we have covered in this webinar here on team coaching and how Simply.Coach can support you. Some of you have already signed up for a trial. Some of you are existing subscribers to Simply.Coach out there. And I wanted to thank you. And I want to pause in here and take questions from you now that I've completed all of this. Opening the floor here for questions from any of you. You can type it into chat, and I can go ahead, share my screen here, go into the application, and help you, with any questions that you might have. So once again, if you want to, if you're already there, you're trialing the platform, you've got all of this, you can go try out the team and group coaching features there. If you're not, if you're looking to, do go ahead and sign up. We do offer a free full feature demo where one of us from the team will come and walk you through the platform. And again, if you have any questions at all, please write to us at help@simply.coach. Once again, that is help@simply.coach. Write to us and we will be able to support you in your queries. This recording will be made available. It will be sent to all people who registered for it. And we are also trying to make sure that the next time when we do this, we are able to do it in multiple time slots, so it will be convenient for people around the globe itself. If there are no further questions, I'd like to thank all of you for joining and close this webinar.